Julie Wilson had grown tired of the clatter, the relentless crash of glasses, the smoke that coiled into her lungs, and the eyes that never really saw her, only the shape of her behind a microphone. Night after night, the small stage felt smaller, her songs suffocated by the crowd's raucous indifference. She was drowning in gin-soaked leers and cigarette butts, her voice lost in a sea of noise and flickering neon lights. "I can't do it anymore, Tony," she said, her voice quiet but laced with exhaustion, like the final note of a ballad sung too many times. Her piano man, Tony, a stoic figure with fingers that could coax stories out of ivory keys, just nodded as if this moment had been inevitable. His hands lingered over the keys, playing the last lingering chord of the night, before resting in his lap. Julie had heard whispers carried in the smoke-filled air of late-night clubs, where the regulars knew things you couldn't find in the papers. There was a place, they said, somewhere beneath the streets of Manhattan, where the city's sharpest minds gathered, not for cards or dice, but for the cold, calculated poetry of chess. It was a different crowd, quieter, more deliberate. A place where strategy and silence reigned. She and Tony made their way through the labyrinth of the city that night, stepping into alleys that felt more like arteries of a hidden, pulsing world. The entrance was easy to miss, a nondescript door tucked between a deli and a tailor's shop, the only sign of life a dull light seeping out from under it. When they walked in, it felt like the air had changed, thicker, as if charged with an electricity reserved for grand decisions made in silence. The room was dim, cloaked in shadows, the scent of old wood and stale cigars mingling with the quiet intensity that hung in the air. It was a subterranean cathedral of thought, where men in dark suits hunched over chessboards, their fingers hovering above pieces as if they held entire worlds within their grasp. The ticking of clocks echoed like the beating of an ancient heart. Julie noticed right away, no one spoke. This was not a place for idle chatter or mindless indulgence. This was a sanctuary of intellect, where each move was a hymn, each counter-move a response, until, finally, checkmate, a benediction. Vinny, the owner, sat in the corner like a king observing his court, his sharp eyes narrowing when he saw Julie and Tony. He tilted his head slightly, a gesture half of curiosity, half of suspicion. "You're not here for chess," he said, his voice a low rumble, as if he was stating a truth more profound than it seemed. "No," Julie replied, her gaze steady. "I'm here to sing." Vinny raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "This ain't no speakeasy. Men come here to think, not to listen to some songbird chirp." "I'm not some songbird," Julie countered softly. "Let me show you." Vinny waved toward the old piano in the corner, its once polished surface now dulled by time and cigarette smoke. Tony took his place, fingers hovering for a brief moment before he began to play, a slow, steady melody, something with weight, something timeless. Julie closed her eyes and began to sing. Her voice was different here. It didn't need to fight for space. It didn't have to battle the clinking glasses or rowdy laughter. Instead, it filled the room with quiet authority, slipping between the pauses in conversation and settling into the spaces between the chessboards, weaving itself into the fabric of the game. Her song was neither loud nor soft. It simply was a presence, like the ticking of the clocks or the flickering of shadows. Her voice moved like a slow breeze through a field of tall grass, bending and swaying, undulating in time with the silent tension of the games being played. The men didn't stop to stare at her. Their eyes never left the chessboards. But their attention had shifted. There was a change in the air, a new undercurrent running through the room. The pieces clicked gently against the boards as they were moved, in harmony with her voice. Knights leapt, bishops slid diagonally, queens commanded their armies, all while Julie's song turned the club into something else, something deeper. When she finished the first song, the silence returned. But it wasn't the same silence as before. It was filled with a kind of reverence, as if the room had taken a collective breath and was now holding it, waiting for something. Then, without turning his head, one of the men at the farthest table, an old grandmaster, his hands knotted like the roots of an ancient tree, lifted a single hand and clapped. Just once. That was all it took. Vinny, still watching from his corner, let a slow grin spread across his face. "You've got something, sweetheart," he said, standing up and walking over. "It's quiet, but it's there." He took a long drag of his cigar, the ember glowing in the dim light. "You sing here now. Not for applause. Not for noise. You sing for the game." From that night on, Julie Wilson sang for the kings and queens, not of the city, but of the chessboards. She became the quiet pulse beneath their games, a living soundtrack to the silent warfare playing out on those wooden grids. The men came not only to move pieces but to move within her songs, each melody accompanying their thoughts as they plotted their moves, considering sacrifice and strategy with her voice lacing their decisions. It was esoteric, like a dream she couldn't quite explain. Here, among the thinkers and the tacticians, Julie found herself in a place where her voice wasn't just heard, it was felt. She no longer sang to be noticed, she sang to be a part of something larger, something that hummed beneath the surface, unseen but undeniable. And in this world of quiet concentration and deep thought, her voice became like the steady rhythm of the game itself, deliberate, unhurried, inevitable.